You are watching UK Crownix. Today we go inside the front lines as Harry's risky trip to Ukraine tries to show that he is still a strong royal force. This is not just a visit, it is a clear statement. While leaders around the world are looking away, one man has stepped off a midnight train into the center of a war zone, not to fight, but to take back a crown the world thought he had already lost. April 2026. The city is under attack. The air is heavy with the smell of fuel and fear. And then suddenly, there he is. Prince Harry. The Duke of Sussex has just made a surprise and very risky arrival in Ukraine. And this is not just another charity trip. It is a huge change in global power that has sent shockwaves from the bunkers of Kyiv to the golden halls of Buckingham Palace. Behind closed doors in London, the reaction is full of anger. Inside sources say that King Charles and Prince William were caught off guard, seeing this move as a risky act of personal diplomacy. While the working royals must follow the strict rule of staying neutral with the British government, Harry has thrown away those rules. He is standing where they cannot stand. He is speaking when they must stay quiet. By stepping into this dangerous situation, Harry is sending a strong and bold message to both Vladimir Putin and the coming administration of Donald Trump. He is not just a former royal living in California. He is a global figure with a place in history. This trip is a careful risk to show that royal power does not come from a title given by a king, but from the bravery to show up when the stakes are highest. Is this a kind humanitarian mission? Or has Harry just started the most advanced counter-move against the crown we have ever seen? Today we go deep into the secret security plans, the banned speeches, and the hidden goals behind the move that has changed the rules forever. The air inside the Kyiv Security Forum was filled with more than just the smell of old coffee and papers. It was heavy with the feeling of history. When Prince Harry stepped onto that stage in April 2026, he was not just speaking for a foundation or a charity. He was showing a new kind of power that the world had never seen before. He started with words that cut through the careful language like a sharp knife. He did not use the safe and guarded words of a diplomat. He spoke with raw and open emotion like a man who has nothing left to lose and everything to prove. He spoke to the room and the cameras in a direct way that sent shockwaves straight back to London. Harry talked about moral courage and strong commitment. But it was his direct challenge to world powers that made people react. He spoke about the need for steady leadership from the West. Many political experts in Washington, D.C. quickly saw this as a hidden criticism of the changing politics in the United States. But the real tension began when he said the names Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Harry did not hold back. He placed himself as a link between the humanitarian crisis on the ground and the big policy talks happening in powerful offices. By doing this, he was basically carrying out his own foreign policy alone. Back at Buckingham Palace, the men in grey suits, the senior advisors who protect the royal image, were said to be in a serious crisis situation. Our sources inside the palace say that Prince William was especially worried about how this looked. To the Prince of Wales, this was not just a visit. It was like a shadow monarchy in action. The British Crown works on the idea of staying above politics. By jumping straight into the most debated global conflict of the 21st century, Harry did not just break a rule, he completely destroyed the rule book. The palace sees this as a clear attempt to use the royal brand to raise his own global position. Think about the timing. This visit happened while the official royal family was mostly busy with duties at home and recovery efforts. Harry stepped into that empty space. He became the face of royal resistance against aggression, while the king stayed a symbol of tradition in London. This is the true meaning of soft power. Harry understands that in today's digital world, being present matters more than being official. As he stood there beside Ukrainian leaders, he was not just the Duke of Sussex. He was a global leader without a country. He used his speech to remind the world that even though he may have lost his military titles and his Royal Highness title, he still has the one thing that truly matters in 2026, the power to capture the world's attention. He praised the strength of the Ukrainian people, comparing their fight to survive with his own personal battles for truth and honesty. It was a perfect example of storytelling, connecting a global war to his own journey for independence. But what was the price of this forbidden speech? For every minute he stood at that podium, the gap between Montecito and London grew even bigger. The palace sees this as rival royalty, a risky game where Harry is using a war zone as the stage for his personal style of power. And as the sound of his words slowly faded in Kyiv, a new and much more serious question started to rise. If Harry can hold this much influence without the crown, does the crown even need Harry? Or does Harry even need the crown? To understand why Harry is in Kyiv, you have to understand a shadow that has followed the royal halls for almost 30 years. This is not just about politics in 2026. It goes back to 1997. It is about a woman wearing a visor and a flak jacket walking through a real minefield in Angola. Princess Diana did not just change the world with that walk. She changed what it means to be royal. She showed that true power was not a throne in London, but the rough ground of a crisis zone. By standing in Ukraine today, Harry is not just visiting a country at war. He is stepping into his mother's place. He is showing the world that while his brother, Prince William, may receive the crown, Harry has received the heart. During his visit, Harry spent a lot of time with the Halo Trust, the same mine-clearing group his mother made famous. Seeing the Duke of Sussex kneeling beside Ukrainian demoness, talking about the details of removing Russian explosives, creates a powerful image that Buckingham Palace cannot ignore or match. In the eyes of the public, this is not reckless diplomacy. It is the Diana way. But there is a sharper side to this legacy. Our sources say that this exact link is what hurts the most for the Prince of Wales. Behind palace doors, William is the one who is meant to protect their mother's memory. But because he is the future king, he is limited by rules and duty. He cannot just fly into an active war zone whenever he wants. He cannot take the same risks that Harry takes. The difference is striking. On one side, you have the future king tied to the British Foreign Office, giving careful and controlled statements from the safety of an office in London. On the other side, you have the spare, the outsider, standing at the front lines, breathing the same air as soldiers in the trenches. Harry is using his mother's example to show that he is the one truly helping the world, while the rest of the family is only representing it. This is a smart and powerful move in the battle for public opinion. Harry knows that people in America especially have a strong emotional connection to Diana's story. By connecting Ukraine's fight to the memory of the people's princess, he makes his presence feel necessary, almost special. He is telling the world, "My mother would have been here, and since she cannot be, I am here." But we must ask a hard question. Is it right to use a mother's memory as protection in this way? Some critics in the UK media are already calling it planned emotional control. They say that Harry is using his grief as a tool to support his role in world matters. Even inside the royal family, there is a growing feeling of concern. A source close to the king says that Charles feels Harry is mixing humanitarian work with political action in a way that could put the monarchy's neutral position at risk. As Harry walked through the streets of Kyiv, his hand sometimes touching the front of his jacket where his military medals once sat, the message was clear. He may have lost his official roles, but he has taken on the unseen strength of his mother's legacy. In the damaged cities of Ukraine, Harry has found a way to seem more royal than he ever did in the United Kingdom. He is showing that you do not need a palace to have power. You only need a cause that people feel deeply about. As Prince Harry moved through the heavily guarded areas of Kyiv, a different kind of pressure was building 4,000 miles away in London. In political science, there is a term called a power vacuum. And in April 2026, Harry did not just find one, he stepped in and filled it. While King Charles and Prince William are tied down by centuries of tradition and strict rules of the British system, Harry has changed himself into something completely new, a free-moving global leader. Our sources close to the palace describe the mood in the royal offices as calm on the outside but deeply worried inside. Why? Because for the first time ever, a non-working royal is carrying out something that looks and feels like an official state visit. When Harry meets Ukrainian leaders, he is not just a famous figure. He is a man who carries the history and identity of the British monarchy, but acts with the speed and flexibility of a modern tech company. This is the rise of what insiders are calling the exiled court of Montecito. By choosing to visit Ukraine, a conflict that defines our time, Harry has clearly gone around the UK Foreign Office. He has shown that in the age of social media and instant global communication, you do not need a government's approval to have influence. You only need a platform and a purpose. Think about how the Invictus Games look now. Harry has turned this group into his own private diplomatic team. It is not just about sports anymore. It is now a network of veterans, world leaders, and big companies that listen to him, not the crown. In Kyiv, he used this network to move through a war zone where official British diplomats must follow strict, slow, and often unseen rules. The risk for the House of Windsor is easy to see. If Harry keeps being the one seen at the front lines of world crises, people will eventually ask, what is the role of the official royals in London? If William and Charles are left opening hospitals and cutting ribbons while Harry is helping set up humanitarian paths in Kyiv, the image of the monarchy starts to shift toward California. Internal notes leaked from inside the palace suggest there is a deep fear that Harry is creating a shadow monarchy, one that has all the shine and history of Windsor, but none of the limits paid for by taxpayers. By standing so closely with Ukraine's defense, Harry is placing himself as the moral leader of the family. But this empty space of power also has a darker side. By acting on his own, Harry becomes unpredictable. In the eyes of British intelligence, he is a risky player. Every word he says in Kyiv can be used by opponents to create division between the United Kingdom and its allies. The palace's frustration is not just about envy. It is about losing a single, united national voice in the halls of power in London. The question is not only how to stop Harry, but how to keep up with him. How can a traditional system built on stability and slow change compete with a man who can fly into a war zone on a private jet and take over global headlines in seconds? As Harry stood looking over the Maidan in Kyiv, surrounded by the memory of past revolutions and the truth of present war, he looked more like a leader than he ever did wearing a military uniform at a parade in London. He has understood that power in 2026 is not about who wears the crown. It is about who controls the story. And right now, the story of the royal family is being written in the streets of Ukraine, not inside Buckingham Palace. But as Harry fills this space, he is also putting a target on himself. By stepping into serious global politics, he is no longer just a spare who needs protection. He is now a player who will be challenged. And the reaction from both London and Washington is about to become much more complex. While Harry was in Ukraine, his future was being discussed in offices in Washington, D.C. This is the American problem. Since moving to California, Harry and Meghan have presented themselves as a strong progressive couple. But in April 2026, the political situation in the United States has changed a lot, with a new administration in the White House that is more focused on deals and more doubtful about foreign aid and the war in Ukraine. Harry's sudden visit to Kyiv is not just a kind act. It is also a direct public challenge to the America First policy. During his speech at the Kyiv Security Forum, Harry did something unusual. He did not only speak about Moscow. He also looked toward Washington. He called on American leaders to respect their international agreements. To the ears of the Trump administration, this did not sound like a prince. It sounded more like a political activist trying to influence U.S. policy. Think about the danger in this situation. Harry is living in the United States as a guest. He lives in Montecito on a visa that has already faced strong legal questions and public discussion. For years, conservative groups have looked into his past, asking how a man who admitted to drug use in his book Spare was allowed into the country. By stepping onto the world stage in Kyiv and speaking against the current administration's foreign policy, Harry has given his critics a powerful tool against him. Our political experts say that Harry is playing a very risky game with the White House. He is counting on his global fame and the memory of his mother, Diana, to protect him. He believes that no government would risk removing a British prince, especially one standing in a war zone and supporting Western values. But behind the scenes, pressure is growing. Sources close to the US State Department say there is clear frustration with Harry's independent diplomacy. One senior official is said to have commented, "We already have enough people making our foreign policy harder. We do not need a Duke from California doing it as well." And what about Meghan? While Harry is in the war zones of Kyiv, Meghan stays in the United States, taking care of the couple's large business and media deals. If Harry's actions lead to a serious conflict with the US government, their entire American dream could be in danger. Their way of life, their security, their staff, and their multi-million-dollar deals all depend on their ability to remain in the United States as well-known and respected public figures. By becoming the voice of Ukraine in the West, Harry is trying to gain a different kind of visa, a visa built on moral authority. He wants to become so important in global discussions that questions about his legal status no longer matter. He is trying to show that he is not just someone living in the United States, but someone leading the free world. But here is the twist. What if the public does not want a prince telling them how their tax money should be used? In Middle America, people have had mixed reactions to Harry's trip. Some see him as a hero, while others see him as a symbol of a global elite that feels far away from the everyday struggles of regular Americans. Harry is walking a very narrow path. One wrong move, one speech that goes too far, and he could find himself not only cut off from his family in London, but also unwelcome in his new home in California. The Duke of Sussex is no longer only fighting for Ukraine's independence. He is also fighting for his own. He is trying to prove that he still holds royal power even without a country. But as the global risks grow, the price of proving this may be higher than he ever expected. To understand how bold this trip really is, you have to look at how Harry actually reached Kyiv. This was not an official state visit planned by the British Foreign Office with the usual teams of royal security officers. Since losing his government-funded protection, Harry has been living in a kind of security uncertainty. But in April 2026, he showed that with enough personal wealth and global connections, you can create your own protection system. Harry traveled on a secret overnight train from Poland, a route that many world leaders now use. But unlike presidents and prime ministers who travel with full military support from their countries, Harry arrived with a private security team that looked more like an elite special forces group. Our sources say he has hired top-level private military contractors, people who once protected heads of state, to keep him safe in a city that is often attacked by drones and missiles. This is a strong symbol of his independence. By protecting himself, Harry is sending a message to the world that he no longer depends on the system to operate. He has become his own independent force. Every time he passes through a checkpoint in Kyiv, he is showing that his royal influence can move with him. It does not belong to a palace in London. It belongs to him. But if you look closely, the details in his appearance also matter. Notice how Harry dresses in Kyiv. He has left behind the fine suits from Savile Row and the formal military uniforms, and now wears tactical jackets and the well-known black polo shirt of the Invictus Games. This is a new kind of royal image, more like an action figure hero. It is a carefully planned look meant to stand in contrast with the formal and traditional royals back home. While Prince William is seen sitting in the back of a luxury Bentley in London, Harry is seen riding in the back of a dusty armoured vehicle in a war zone. The message is powerful and direct against the traditional monarchy. In the age of social media, the person who shows up in the moment is the one who wins attention. By standing among the ruins of buildings destroyed by missiles, Harry is creating strong and lasting images. He is creating moments that people will remember for many years. He is, in effect, saying, "I do not need a medal from the king to be a soldier. I do not need a title from the crown to be a leader." However, this use of private security creates a serious problem for the British government. If anything were to happen to the king's son in Ukraine, it could lead to a major global crisis. Whether he is there officially or not, the British government would still face the consequences of his actions, even though they have no control over his choices. Inside the palace, many see this as extremely selfish. Advisors argue that Harry is acting like a war zone visitor while putting the reputation of the entire United Kingdom at risk. They worry that his presence could become a target for Russian propaganda. If Russia were able to capture or harm a British prince, even one acting on his own, it would be a huge victory for Vladimir Putin. Yet for Harry, the danger itself is part of the mission. The risk makes the purpose feel real and important. He understands that the more dangerous the trip appears, the stronger his royal power seems. He is using the energy and tension of war to bring his public image back to life. In the quiet times between meetings, Harry was seen visiting a recovery center for Ukrainian veterans. There were no cameras allowed for the first 20 minutes. This was a classic Diana-style move to build real trust. When the cameras finally started recording, they showed a man who looked full of energy, clear in purpose, and most importantly, important again. He was not speaking about family conflicts or Netflix deals. He was speaking about survival, bravery, and the future of Europe. In those moments, the message was complete. Harry had successfully changed his image from the spare to a statesman. He showed that you can remove a prince from the palace, but you cannot remove the power from the prince if he is bold enough to go where the palace will not go. As the midnight train left Kyiv, moving away from the smoke and the sirens, one thing became very clear. The Prince Harry who entered Ukraine is not the same man who is going back to California. In just a few days, he has given a perfect example of modern power. He has shown that in 2026, being relevant is the most important thing. You can take away a man's titles. You can remove his state-funded security, and you can push him out of the palace, but you cannot silence a voice that knows how to speak to the world's conscience. Harry's risky visit to Ukraine was not only about charity. It was a careful display of soft power that Buckingham Palace cannot easily match. He showed that while the official monarchy depends on tradition and silence, his shadow version depends on action and being present. He did not just prove that he is still a royal force. He proved that he might be the only royal able to truly influence the global stage. But this success comes with a serious cost. By acting in this independent way, Harry has likely destroyed the last path back to London. He has placed himself not as part of the royal family, but as someone competing with it. And as he returns to the United States, he now faces an even bigger problem, a growing political storm in Washington that could put his home at risk. So now we must ask you, has Harry finally discovered his true purpose, or has he made the biggest mistake of his life? Is he the hero that the West needs, or a risky player who could harm global stability just to improve his image? The crown in London is made of gold and jewels, But the crown Harry is building is made of headlines and history. Only time will show which one will last. If you found this deep look into the hidden world of royal power interesting, make sure to press the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are following this story as it develops across 3 continents. What do you think? Does Harry now have more royal power than he ever had in London? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read and reply to the best ones. Until next time, keep watching the shadows behind the throne.